The lawyer's voice echoed through the mahogany-paneled boardroom of the Parker Family Medical Foundation. All medical grant programs and operational control will be transferred to your sister, Mr. Caldwell announced, his tone measured and precise. The weight of each word pressed against my chest, making it harder to breathe in the suddenly stifling room. I maintained my composure, hands folded neatly in my lap, while Victoria's lips curved into a familiar smirk. The afternoon sun caught the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Another extravagant gift from Dad last Christmas, a not-so-subtle reminder of his endless favoritism. At 34, I was witnessing the final act of my father choosing her over me, exactly as I'd expected. The nonprofit clinics in underserved communities, the children's health research grants, and the international medical aid programs will all be overseen by Victoria Parker Matthews, Mr. Caldwell continued, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. The Parker Foundation's endowment and all associated medical research funding will be under her complete control. Victoria leaned back in her leather chair, practically glowing. She dressed for the occasion in a tailored black Chanel suit, her manicure fresh, her dark hair styled to perfection. She embodied everything our father valued: ambitious, compliant, married to a hedge fund manager, mother to two perfectly groomed children. I, on the other hand, had disappointed him at every turn, choosing to become a pediatrician instead of joining the financial world, divorcing the investment banker he'd handpicked when I discovered his affairs, building my own career in nonprofit medicine that didn't align with Dad's definition of success. "Is that everything?" Victoria asked, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. She turned to me with a practiced pout. "Oh, Evelyn, I'm so sorry. But you know how Dad felt about your choices in medicine." I met her gaze steadily. "I'm well aware, Vic." Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat uncomfortably. "There is a small discretionary fund set aside for Dr. Evelyn Parker, primarily consisting of operational costs for her current clinic and some basic research grants." Victoria's laugh cut through the room like glass. "Well, at least you can keep treating your charity cases. Though I'm not sure how long that tiny clinic of yours will last without proper funding." I stood, smoothing my simple navy dress. "Are we finished here, Mr. Caldwell?" The lawyer nodded, visibly relieved I wasn't contesting the will. He'd probably witnessed enough inheritance disputes to recognize the signs of an impending storm. "Evie," Victoria called as I reached the door, using the childhood nickname she knew I hated. "Don't worry, I'll make sure your clinic is taken care of. Maybe we can even discuss some entry-level funding opportunities. After a proper review of your operational efficiency, of course." I turned, offering her a measured smile. "That's generous, Vic, but my patients and I will manage just fine." The drive home. The drive back to my house was quiet. The autumn trees along the winding suburban roads painted in shades of gold and red. Mom had always loved this season, especially the way it transformed the neighborhood. She would have been heartbroken by what Dad had done today, by how he'd managed to extend his disapproval of my career choices even beyond death. My phone buzzed with a message from Victoria. "Dinner tonight? We should discuss the future of your clinic's funding." I ignored it, just as I'd been ignoring her thinly veiled attempts at control since Dad's funeral last week. Instead, I pulled into the driveway of my modest but welcoming craftsman home, something I'd bought outright 3 years ago with my own savings from my medical practice. Inside, I went straight to my home office, where patient files shared space with research papers on pediatric care in underserved communities. I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Mom had given it to me 2 years ago, just months before her unexpected passing. "Don't open this until after your father's gone," she had whispered, her fragile hands gripping mine with surprising strength. "Promise me, Evelyn." I had promised. And now, as I carefully broke the seal, I finally understood why. Inside were documents, stacks of them. On top was a letter in Mom's elegant handwriting. My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then your father is gone, and I'm certain he's done exactly what I feared. Your father was brilliant at making money, but he never understood what truly matters. He let his pride and his outdated beliefs blind him to the most precious thing he had, a daughter with the compassion to heal, with the integrity to serve those in need, with the heart to make real change in people's lives. What he never realized is that while he was building his financial empire, I was building something of my own. 20 years ago, I began establishing a network of medical charities and healthcare foundations. Your dedication to treating children in underserved communities inspired me. While your father dismissed your work as wasteful idealism, I saw the future of healthcare. These organizations have grown beyond anything he could have imagined, worth far more than the Parker Foundation. Everything is in your name, transferred gradually and legally over the years, through a network of charitable trusts your father never bothered to understand. Victoria can't touch any of it. Use it wisely, my darling girl. Make the difference I always knew you could. All my love. Mom. Discovery. My hands trembled as I sifted through the documents. Trust certificates, foundation charters, international healthcare partnerships. A vast network of medical organizations, quietly built under my father's nose. The sheer scope of it made my head spin. Children's hospitals, mobile medical units, research facilities focused on pediatric care in developing nations. He'd never had a clue. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Victoria. Seriously, Evelyn, we need to discuss your clinic's sustainability. Dad would have wanted us to streamline operations. I picked up my phone, my pulse steady for the first time today. I typed, "You're right, we should talk. Come over tomorrow morning. I have something to show you." That night, I stayed up late reviewing Mom's documents, amazed by her strategic brilliance. She had invested in groundbreaking pediatric research, innovative medical technology, healthcare accessibility programs, everything I had dedicated my career to, while Dad had dismissed my work as financially irresponsible. Mom had been quietly revolutionizing healthcare access all along. I thought about Victoria's smug expression in the boardroom, the way she'd always aligned with Dad, always belittled my choice to work with underprivileged patients. Tomorrow, she would finally understand what real impact looked like. Next morning, at precisely 10:00, the doorbell rang. Victoria stood on my porch in another designer outfit, her expression a calculated mix of concern and superiority. Her eyes scanned my modest home, barely concealing her disdain. "Oh, she sighed, stepping inside. "We really need to discuss upgrading your lifestyle. This isn't the kind of residence a Parker should maintain." I led her to my dining room without comment. "You're right, Vic. We do need to talk. There's something Mom wanted you to see." Her expression hardened slightly at the mention of Mom. They had never been close. Victoria was Dad's daughter through and through, more interested in quarterly returns than human connection. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her leather portfolio. I gestured to the documents spread across my dining table. "Take a look." The revelation. Victoria's manicured fingers hesitated before reaching for the papers. I watched as her trademark smirk slowly dissolved, replaced by widening eyes and draining color, then flushing with angry realization. This can't be real," she stammered. "Mom was just a charity fundraiser. She didn't know anything about running medical organizations." I suppressed a smile. Mom had spent years playing the role of the quiet philanthropist, letting Dad and Victoria discuss profit margins, while she built something far more meaningful than either of them had imagined. "Oh, it's very real," I said, my voice calm. "Every document is verified." Mom knew exactly what she was doing. And now, so do I. Victoria sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. But, but Dad's foundation, the Parker Medical Grants, are yours, I finished, just like Dad wanted. But Mom's healthcare network? That belongs to me. And it's worth about 10 times what you inherited. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the soft tapping of Victoria's nails against my dining table. She was recalculating, strategizing, trying to find her footing in this new reality. Finally, she spoke, slipping into her boardroom voice. We could collaborate, pool our resources. Think about it, Evelyn. With the Parker Foundation's infrastructure and these healthcare networks. No, Vic, I cut her off. That's not what Mom wanted. And it's not what I want. You got exactly what Dad intended for you. This is my path, providing healthcare to those who need it most. Her mask slipped, just for a moment, revealing something raw beneath. Anger, maybe even fear. But she recovered quickly, standing abruptly, her designer heels clicking against my hardwood floors. You're making a grave mistake, she said coolly. I smiled. Maybe, but at least it's my mistake to make. The aftermath. Victoria stormed out, her Louboutins striking the pavement with staccato fury. I exhaled slowly, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mom had been right. True success isn't measured in profit margins, but in lives changed. I had work to do. Real, meaningful work. My phone buzzed one last time. Victoria, this isn't over, Evelyn. I glanced at the locked safe in my office, where copies of every document were securely stored. I thought of my lawyer, already implementing Mom's carefully laid plans to protect her healthcare legacy. I smiled as I typed my response. You're right. It's just beginning. The next morning, I woke to 14 missed calls and a flood of texts from relatives. Word had spread quickly. Victoria had made sure of that. Evelyn, this is Aunt Patricia. How could you do this to your sister? Your father would be devastated by your lack of family loyalty. Cousin Michael here. Let's discuss some potential healthcare partnerships. I have some fantastic investment opportunities. Hey, cuz, remember when we used to play doctor as kids? We should catch up. I muted my phone. Mom had always taught me the importance of maintaining professional boundaries, and today I had patients who needed me more than I needed family drama. My first stop was Harrison Medical Law Group, the firm that had quietly managed Mom's healthcare network for years. Unlike Caldwell, Dad's corporate attorney, Sarah Harrison was sharp, progressive, and unshakable in her commitment to healthcare justice. Right on schedule, Sarah said as I entered her office. Your mother predicted Victoria would try to contest this within days of finding out. At the law office, I settled into the chair across from Sarah's desk. What's our next move? Sarah pulled out a thick folder, her expression confident. Your mother left very specific instructions. She knew Victoria would likely challenge these medical foundations, probably claiming your mother was mentally unfit when she established them. I let out a short laugh. That sounds exactly like Victoria, which is why your mother built an airtight case. Sarah's eyes gleamed as she slid a stack of documents toward me. She spent years documenting everything: board meetings, medical initiative decisions, even recordings of conversations with healthcare advisors. It's all here. Your mother wasn't just running medical charities. She was ensuring their future. A slow, admiring smile spread across my face. Mom had been 10 steps ahead of everyone. And there's more, Sarah continued, pulling out another document. Your mother also left instructions regarding the Parker Foundation. She suspected they might try to obstruct some of her healthcare initiatives, so she put certain measures in place. As Sarah laid out the details, I felt something settle in my chest, not just relief, but purpose. Mom hadn't just left me organizations, she had left me a mission. At the children's clinic, my next stop was the Pediatric Research Center of Dr. James Chen, one of the leading researchers in children's preventive care. Mom's files had revealed she'd been anonymously funding his work for years. The clinic was nothing like the Parker Foundation's marble-floored offices. No expensive artwork, no designer furniture. Just clean, functional spaces, children's artwork on the walls, and the quiet hum of meaningful work being done. Dr. Chen's eyes widened as I introduced myself. Your mother was our anonymous benefactor. We've been hoping to thank her properly for years. At the research center, she believed in your work, I said, placing a new contract on his desk. And I want to increase the funding. It's time to expand this research to help more children. As we discussed expansion plans for preventive care programs, my phone kept buzzing. Victoria, this time via email. You can't just abandon our family's legacy. Dad built this foundation for both of us. I stared at her words, thinking about Dad's legacy. Profit-driven healthcare, limited accessibility, selective treatment. Then I thought about Mom's. Universal access, preventive care, healing without prejudice. The choice was clear. Evening at home. That evening, as I pulled into my driveway, I spotted Victoria's Mercedes parked outside my house. She was sitting on my porch steps, her perfect appearance slightly disheveled, her expression unreadable. She stood as I approached. We need to talk. Really talk, Evelyn. I unlocked my door, letting her follow me inside. Unlike yesterday, she didn't comment on my modest furnishings or practical decor. I spoke to the board at the Parker Foundation today, she began, pacing my living room. Our reputation is taking a hit. Major donors are nervous about our traditional approach to healthcare funding. I leaned against my couch, arms crossed. Sounds like a you problem. Victoria whirled to face me. It's an us problem, she snapped. This is our family's medical legacy we're talking about. Do you have any idea what people are saying? That Dad was so focused on grooming me for leadership that he missed Mom building something more meaningful right under his nose. They're calling him short-sighted, outdated. They're not wrong. The confrontation. Victoria stopped pacing, her face flushing. How can you be so cold? This is Dad we're talking about. Yes, the same Dad who cut me out of his foundation because I chose to work with underserved patients. The same Dad who mocked my dedication to preventive care, dismissed my concerns about healthcare accessibility. I met her gaze steadily. The same Dad who taught you to do the same. Victoria flinched. I never. But she didn't finish, because we both knew the truth. She had laughed right alongside him when he called my clinic a waste of resources, when he sneered at Mom's wasteful charity work. Sit down, Vic, I said softly. Let me show you something. I opened my laptop and pulled up a presentation. These are projections for the next 10 years. Childhood disease prevention statistics, healthcare accessibility trends, preventive care impact studies. I clicked through the slides, letting the data speak for itself. Dad's approach to medical funding is obsolete. Mom saw it coming years ago. Victoria leaned in, her business mind engaging despite herself. The Parker Foundation could adapt, she said slowly. With the right partnerships. With my resources, I corrected. With your collaboration, she counted. Think about it, Evelyn. We could honor both our parents' legacies. Modernize Dad's approach while maintaining your independence. And you'd remain in control? I asked, raising an eyebrow. That's not happening, Vic. I'm done trying to prove I'm worthy of the Parker name by prioritizing profits over patients. Her expression tightened. Is that what this is about? Revenge? I closed my laptop. No. It's about finally practicing medicine my way. Mom gave me that freedom. The moment of truth. Victoria didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. I don't know how to manage this without you, Evelyn. Dad always said we were stronger together. Dad said a lot of things. I held her gaze, but he was wrong about most of them. After she left, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto my back porch. The evening air carried the crisp scent of autumn, fresh, clean, full of possibility. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I'd been drafting all day. Dear Parker Foundation Board of Directors, my name is Dr. Evelyn Parker, and I'm writing to address the recent revelations about my mother's healthcare initiatives. It was time to make my own moves. Victoria was right about one thing. This was just the beginning. Next morning, another storm arrived in the form of Uncle Robert, Dad's younger brother, and a Parker Foundation board member. He showed up unannounced at my clinic during morning rounds. Your father would be turning in his grave, he declared, interrupting my patient notes. Letting the foundation's reputation take a hit like this. I let him rant, barely listening. He'd always been Dad's echo, dismissing my work with underprivileged children as bleeding heart medicine at family gatherings. Are you finished? I asked when he finally paused for breath. Evelyn, be reasonable, he said, switching tactics. The family name is exactly what I'm protecting. I folded my arms. While you and Dad focused on prestigious donors, Mom was building something that actually helps people. The confrontation continues. His face reddened. Your mother didn't understand medical administration. She was just the woman who created a healthcare network that outperformed all of you, I offered. The one who built a billion-dollar medical initiative while you were chasing wealthy donors. His mouth pressed into a hard line. You're making a terrible mistake. No, I said evenly. I'm fixing yours. He left in a fury, almost colliding with a nurse bringing in patient charts. I had a feeling future medical charity galas were going to be very interesting. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had a meeting with a team of pediatric specialists working on an innovative preventive care program for underserved communities. Thanks to Mom, I could finally give them the resources they needed. As I reviewed their proposal, I thought about how much had changed in just a few days. Mom's gift wasn't just financial freedom, it was the power to make real change in children's lives. My phone buzzed. Another text from Victoria. Board meeting tomorrow. Last chance to align our healthcare strategies. I smiled, thinking of the plans already in motion. Good luck with the meeting. My priority is my patients. It was time to create my own medical legacy. The following morning, the morning of the Parker Foundation board meeting arrived with unexpected news. Their major donors were expressing serious concerns. My phone lit up with a headline from the Wall Street Journal. Parker Foundation faces donor exodus amid healthcare innovation crisis. I was in my clinic reviewing patient files when Victoria burst in, still in her boardroom attire. Her perfectly tailored suit couldn't mask the panic in her eyes. The confrontation at the clinic. What did you do? Victoria demanded, slamming a stack of papers onto my desk, scattering my patient charts. Half our major donors are threatening to pull their support. I glanced at the printouts, emails from the Parker Foundation's largest benefactors, concerns about outdated healthcare approaches, questions about accessibility initiatives, warnings about modern medical trends. I leaned back in my chair. Seems like transparency works wonders, doesn't it? Victoria's voice sharpened. Transparency? You sent our internal policies to our donors. Those reports came from independent healthcare assessment agencies, I corrected. Not my work. I just made sure the right people saw them. Victoria dropped into my visitor's chair, her composure fracturing. The board is in crisis mode. They're talking about emergency restructuring, maybe even dissolving some programs just to maintain basic operations. I nodded. They should be concerned. Mom's healthcare networks are announcing major accessibility initiatives tomorrow. Innovative programs that make the Parker Foundation look antiquated. Victoria exhaled sharply. You're destroying everything Dad built. I met her gaze. No, Vic. Dad destroyed it himself by refusing to adapt. Mom warned him for years about healthcare accessibility and preventive care. He ignored her. Victoria's fingers tightened into fists. And this is your revenge? This is medicine. My voice was clinical, just like Dad had trained us to be. Isn't that what he taught us? Healthcare evolves. Organizations adapt, or they become obsolete. Breaking news. Before Victoria could reply, my phone rang. Sarah Harrison. Turn on the news, she said. Something's happening. I switched on the small TV I kept in my office for patient education videos. Victoria turned pale as the breaking news ticker scrolled across the screen. Parker Foundation Board calls emergency session. Leadership under review. Victoria's breath caught. They can't do this. Her voice barely a whisper. I'm Dad's chosen successor. But they could. And they were. The news anchor was already analyzing the board's decision. How Victoria had failed to adapt to modern healthcare needs. How the foundation was losing donor confidence. How they'd fallen behind in medical innovation. Sarah's voice cut through the moment. The board is receiving another packet of documents. Your mother's comprehensive analysis of every outdated policy the foundation maintained, and exactly how they could have modernized their approach. Victoria turned back to me, realization dawning. You planned this. I shook my head. Wrong again, Vic. I don't want Dad's foundation. But I do want the medical community to understand why his approach to healthcare doesn't work anymore. My phone buzzed again. An email from Dr. Chen. His team had breakthrough results on their pediatric preventive care project. You should get back to your meeting, I said, standing. Sounds like they have a lot to discuss. Victoria rose slowly, straightening her jacket. This isn't over, Evelyn. I gave her a knowing smile. Actually, it is. Mom made sure of that. Progress at the research center. That afternoon, I drove to Dr. Chen's research center. The facility was buzzing with energy. This could revolutionize early childhood disease prevention, Dr. Chen explained, showing me the latest trial data. And with the funding you've provided, we can implement it in communities that need it most. I thought about Dad, his disdain for preventive care programs, his obsession with prestigious medical partnerships over actual patient impact. Mom had seen a different future. Now I was making it reality. Evening update. That evening, Sarah called again. The board meeting just ended, she said. Victoria's been removed from leadership. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight of it settle. They're bringing in an interim director while they reassess the foundation's direction. I already knew Victoria wouldn't handle it well. How's she taking it? Sarah hesitated. She's threatening legal action, claiming family rights to the position. Let her, I said. The medical community won't support her, not after today. Sarah sighed. There's more. Some board members are suggesting a merger with your mother's healthcare networks. They think it's the only way to save the foundation. I almost laughed. Dad's foundation, begging to be saved by the very healthcare initiatives he mocked. Not interested. Sarah sounded unsurprised. That's what I thought you'd say. Late evening reflections. After hanging up, I opened my laptop, reviewing the final details for tomorrow's press conference. Mom's healthcare legacy was thriving, expanding just as she had planned. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Robert. His text was brief. The family name, Evelyn. Think about what you're doing to the family name. I thought about Mom, quietly building meaningful healthcare programs, while Dad and Victoria chased prestigious donors and social status. I thought about the years of being dismissed, belittled, made to feel like my dedication to underserved patients was somehow shameful. I glanced at Uncle Robert's text again. Think about what you're doing to the family name. I let out a slow breath, then typed my response. I am thinking about the family name. I'm giving it real meaning. That night, as I prepared my speech for tomorrow's press conference, I found an old photo album in my desk drawer. The first photo, Mom at my medical school graduation, beaming with pride as I accepted my degree. Dad and Victoria hadn't attended, they had a foundation fundraiser. Another picture, Mom volunteering at my first free clinic, teaching children about health and nutrition. She had always supported my mission to make healthcare accessible, even when the rest of the family called it naive. My phone buzzed again. A news alert. Parker Foundation stock hits record low amid leadership crisis. I closed the article and opened my email instead. Dr. Chen's final presentation on the preventive care program was waiting for review. Tomorrow, we would introduce the world to a different approach to healthcare, one that valued accessibility over exclusivity, prevention over profits. Victoria might still be clinging to Dad's foundation, but I had something better. Mom's vision for healthcare and the power to make it real. Another text interrupted my thoughts. Victoria, they're dismantling everything Dad built. Please, Evelyn, help me fix this. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Some things aren't meant to be fixed, Vic. They're meant to be transformed. 1 year later, 1 year after Mom's revelations changed everything, I stood at a podium in front of our newest children's clinic. Behind me, our state-of-the-art preventive care center was preparing to open. A dream I'd had since medical school, now made real through Mom's legacy. I took a steadying breath, then addressed the crowd of healthcare professionals, community leaders, and media gathered before me. Today isn't just about opening a new facility. It's proof that quality healthcare and accessibility aren't opposing forces. Success isn't measured by private donor lists alone, but by the number of lives we can improve. As I scanned the audience, I spotted Victoria. She sat in the back row, quieter than I'd ever seen her, less polished, more genuine. The Parker Foundation had undergone a complete transformation over the past year, but not in the way Victoria had once envisioned. After her removal as director, the board had made the unprecedented decision to restructure entirely. Its programs were reorganized to focus on community health initiatives. The Parker name, once synonymous with exclusive healthcare, had taken on a new meaning. When my speech ended and the ribbon-cutting ceremony concluded, Victoria approached the podium. "Nice speech," she said, her voice softer, stripped of its usual edge. Mom would have been proud. I studied her carefully. No resentment, no calculation. "How are you, Vic?" "Really?" She hesitated, then offered a small, wry smile. "Adapting. It's different, not being Victoria Parker, Foundation Director. But maybe that's not entirely bad." The new beginning. We walked through the new clinic, watching families already filling the waiting room. The preventive care program was showing remarkable results in early trials. After a long silence, Victoria spoke. "You know what I realized? I spent so many years trying to be exactly what Dad wanted that I never stopped to think about what I wanted." I turned to her. "And what do you want?" She exhaled slowly, watching a pediatric nurse interact with a young patient. "I've been volunteering at a community health education center, teaching families about preventive care. It's actually incredible seeing their faces light up when they understand how to keep their children healthy." Mom would have loved that. "Yeah," Victoria murmured. She would have. Later that afternoon, Sarah Harrison arrived at my office with the latest reports. Mom's healthcare networks had expanded significantly. But more importantly, our preventive care initiatives were showing measurable impact in community health outcomes. There's something else, Sarah said, sliding an envelope across my desk. We found this in your mother's old files. She left instructions for it to be delivered today. I unfolded the letter, my breath catching at the sight of Mom's familiar handwriting. My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, a year has passed since you learned about your inheritance. I hope you've used this time wisely. And from what I arranged to have monitored, I believe you have. But there's one last thing I need you to understand. Your sister, despite everything, is still your sister. Victoria was just as much a victim of your father's rigid healthcare philosophy as you were. She simply coped differently. Now that his influence is gone, she might surprise you. I've left instructions with Sarah for a separate fund, one dedicated to community health education programs. If Victoria has shown any sign of change, any willingness to see healthcare differently, I want you to offer her the chance to manage it. Sometimes the greatest achievement isn't in defeating our opponents, but in helping them become better healers. All my love. Mum. Evening Revelations. Oh, Mum, I whispered. I sat back in my chair, absorbing Mom's final lesson. Even now, she was teaching me, not about medical administration or healthcare policies, but about healing and wisdom. That evening, I invited Victoria over for dinner. As we sat on my back porch, autumn air crisp around us, I told her about Mom's letter and the Health Education Fund. You don't have to decide right away, I said carefully. But if you're serious about the community health work, Victoria cut me off. Why would you trust me with this? After everything, I thought about Mom's words. Because sometimes people deserve a chance to rewrite their story. Victoria swallowed hard, blinking away unexpected tears. I was horrible to you for years. I helped Dad undermine your medical career because it made me feel more secure about my own place in his world. I know, I said simply. But that's not who you have to be anymore. Over the next few months, Victoria threw herself into the work. She attacked the challenge of building health education programs with the same intensity she once used for foundation fundraising. It was strange at first, working together instead of against each other. But Mom had been right. People could change, if given the chance. Final scene. The final piece fell into place on what would have been Mom's birthday. Victoria and I stood in her memorial garden at the new clinic, the one I had dedicated to her vision. Victoria touched a healing herb plant gently. Mom used to talk about holistic health care when we were kids. About treating the whole person, not just the symptoms. I never listened. I was too busy memorizing Dad's donor lists. I smiled. She never gave up hope, though. Not for either of us. Victoria turned to me, her eyes serious. I'm sorry, Evelyn. For everything. I was so focused on being Dad's daughter that I forgot how to be Mom's, too. For the first time in years, I hugged my sister. Mom knew what she was doing, I whispered. She saved both of us, just in different ways. Epilogue. That night, I sat in my clinic office, reviewing the latest data from our preventive care programs. On my wall hung two photos. One of Mom at my first free clinic opening, teaching children about health, and a new one, Victoria leading a community health workshop, her face glowing with genuine purpose. Mom's legacy wasn't just about medical networks or funding. It was about transformation of healthcare, our family, and ourselves. She had played the longest game of all, ensuring not just institutional success, but the possibility of healing and growth. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Kids at the Education Center want to start a junior health ambassador program. Thought you might want to help design it. I smiled, thinking about Mom's final letter. Count me in, I replied. Because sometimes the best kind of victory isn't about winning or losing. It's about changing the system entirely. Mom had understood that all along. And now, finally, so did we. The computer screen flickered with new patient data, children showing improved health outcomes, families learning preventive care, communities gaining access to quality health care. This was what success really looked like. Not in profit margins or prestigious donor lists, but in lives changed and families healed. As I gathered my things to head home, I paused at the clinic's entrance. A young mother was teaching her child how to use an inhaler properly, something she'd learned in one of Victoria's health education classes. They both looked up and waved, smiling. This was Mom's true legacy. Not just healing bodies, but healing relationships, healing communities, healing our family. The autumn wind rustled through the memorial garden as I walked to my car. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patients, new opportunities to make a difference. But for now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The Parker name had finally found its true purpose. Not in prestige, but in service. Not in exclusivity, but in accessibility. Not in competition, but in healing. And that was worth more than any inheritance.